This is A10 completing the square. Okay, so let's take a look at an example to see when we might have to complete the square as one of our techniques for solving quadratics. So at this point we know how to factor. We also know how to solve for the roots of a quadratic when the quadratic is factored. So let's find the roots of this given quadratic trinomial right here. Okay, so if we do A times C, we know our A is 1 and our C is negative 30. So 1 times negative 30 is negative 30. Okay, so we're looking for factors of negative 30 that sum to positive 6. Okay, so if we list all the factors of negative 30, we've got 1 and 30. We've got 5 and 6. We've got 3 and 10. And we've got 2 and 15. Okay, so if we change one of these to negative, any one of these factors or any one of these pairs, we still won't get our B term of positive 6. So are there factors of negative 30 that sum to 6? No, there are none. So does that mean the quadratic has no roots? No. It just means the roots aren't, I'll put this in quotations, pretty numbers or fractions. Okay, pause video if you need more time. Okay, so to complete the square, our first strategy, let's use our same example. Okay, so remember that we have this form right here, standard form, so we've got A, B, and C. So our first step is going to be to bring our C term over to one side. Okay, so if we add 30 to both sides, those will cancel. So we get p squared plus 6p equals positive 30. Okay, so now step 2, divide the entire equation by a, or whatever your coefficient is of a, so that the quadratic term has a coefficient of 1. So for this example, our a term, since there is nothing right here, it already is 1. So we're all set. So I'm just going to put a check mark. So now we're going to rewrite our equation using blanks in order to complete the square. So p squared plus 6p plus blank equals 30 plus blank. Step 4, we're going to take our b term. So our b term is 6. We're going to divide it by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now we're going to square that number. And again, it doesn't matter what our b term is at this point, we're always going to square it. Okay? So 3 squared is 9. So that's what's going to go in our blanks. Okay, pause the video if you need more time. So we are left with, we had p squared plus 6p plus 9 equals, I'll combine the 30 and the 9 to make it 39. Okay? So now we need to factor this left side. Okay? So how we're going to factor that, we could use AC method, but we could be faced with a time where our A, our C, or our B, we have fractions. Well, not our A needs to be 1, but our B or our C could include fractions. Okay? So we can factor it using our magic number. So our magic number is the number we got in step 4 when we divided by 2. Okay, so before we squared it, after we divided by 2, that's going to be our magic number. So in this case, it was 3. So to factor this with our magic number, and again, you can use AC method if you want. You'll notice that you get the same solution. I'm going to take that magic number and throw it in parentheses with my variable and square it. And it equals 39. So from here, all we have to do is solve. So to get rid of that exponent, I'll take the square root of both sides. So I get p plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 39. Okay, so now I'll subtract 3 from both sides. So I get p equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 39. Okay, so this plus or minus right here, okay, this means I have 2 solutions. Just like when I factored, I always got 2 solutions. Okay, so I'd like you to write it in this form right here. All right, p equals negative 3 plus the square root of 39. And it equals negative 3 minus the square root of 39. That's all that plus or minus means. Okay, and that would be my solution. Okay, so going back to what I mentioned earlier, we can solve for the roots of this given quadratic. It wasn't factorable, okay, which means we don't have a pretty answer. Okay, so p equals negative 3 plus the square root of 39. If you type that into a calculator, you're going to get some sort of decimal. Same thing with negative 3 minus the square root of 39. Okay, just because it's not a whole number or some sort of visually appealing fraction doesn't mean it's incorrect. Okay, so at this time you can go to the example video for A10 completing the square.